the last thing I wanted to chat about, and this is something that has kind of been on my mind for a bit, is the importance of Superman Legacy. Um, and I won't chat too much about this because it's something that I might want to get into a lot more later. But I just been thinking about how important is this movie. Superman Legacy, if you don't know, is the first official film in the DC universe. And to kind of lay some pretext to this, the DCEU, which is the characters that we know from, Batman, Dawn of Justice, Batman v Superman, whatever, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, these movies that have come out recently in the past few years, um, unfortunately, they haven't connected with the audience the way that I think people had hoped. Um, I was a big fan of Man of Steel. I was a massive fan of Batman v Superman. Um, I really enjoyed Aquaman. I really loved Wonder Woman. But honestly, out of those four films, I cannot really even remember any of the others. Suicide Squad, James Gunn's one was much better than the first one, but they just became a bit of a generic, forgettable mess. And in a world where at the time Marvel was bringing out banger after banger after banger with really well written, really awesome action scenes, really amazing um, quality films, DC at the time just was struggling. And it breaks my heart because I feel personally that I love the Marvel and I love the DC comics, but my preference has always been the DC side, probably because I like a lot of the darker stories. But I've always felt like the DC comics have always told really awesome stories, where Marvel have also told great stories, but I just felt like the DC ones have always appealed to me more. And so to see that these awesome characters and these awesome stories hadn't got the real appreciation or stories they deserved has just always made me sad because I know that there's just this massive potential. Um, it makes this whole reboot around the DCU so exciting, but at the same time worrying because you worry that people are just over Marvel and DC films as a whole, over comic book films completely, because of what's been happening on both sides. Um, and it could just be that the DCU, the reboot, is just what the audience is looking for to energize themselves again into the comic book world. Uh, and I think a major portion of that hinges on Superman Legacy. Most people, the general audience, I don't think really follows, that there's even a reboot. Most people don't even know what's happening. I think, your standard audience, people like myself who like to follow these kind of things, I think I'm aware of what's happening, but often I have to explain it to people around me like, oh, well, they're actually rebooting and all these things happening. So for Superman Legacy, there is this massive weight because James Gunn's writing this. I think he's directing it as well. But in any case, this film has to knock it out of the park. I don't think it's necessarily going to make lots of money. Um, I would guess anywhere from 500 to 700 million is would be a really good day at the office um, for them because you haven't had a track record of anything over 400 million in like ages from the DC movies, and now the Marvel movies are pretty much the same. Uh, the Marvels just came out, and that was just an epic flop. So it's clear that the audience has lost confidence in these films, but I don't think that's because they don't like comic book films anymore. I just think that there's no reason to believe that they're going to be as good as they used to be, because they haven't been good in a while. There's been a few here and there that have been like, oh, that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was like a fun return to kind of the old days. And, there's been a few movies here and there that have kind of been really good, but in the most part, it's just kind of, I'll just wait for it to pop up on Disney Plus and, see if I watch it. If I like it, I'll just stop watching. I'm not going to go to the movies to watch it. So this is where we are. We're in a very weird landscape. So for us as an audience, and I think for the general audience to get back into loving these movies, there has to be a unique vision for this world. There has to be a unique take on superhero films. It can't feel like the Marvel movies. It can't feel like the DC movies that we've seen before. It has to be its own thing, and it has to be its own thing that people can fall in love with. So, no pressure, but it has to be great. And people got a bit nervous because they started announcing the cast for Superman Legacy. And like I mentioned before, you've got David Corenswet playing Superman. You've got Brosnan playing Lois Lane. You've got Nathan Fillion playing Green Lantern. Lex Luthor, got Nicholas Hoult. Millie Alcock playing Supergirl. I don't know if she's in that film though. We will see. But all these people are in Superman Legacy. And people are worrying if it's getting a bit crowded. Plus a lot of peripheral characters as well. But the thing is the news came out recently where somebody asked James Gunn if Batman would be in Superman Legacy. And the answer was no. Someone asked him, is Batman in the script? And he's like, no, he's not in the script. So, that for me was actually great. Because nobody needs... You look back at, the history of what's happened in the movies before. And what it felt like was Marvel was really getting a train moving along. And DC was like, I'm just going to hop on that train right now. And they just shoehorned characters. We got Man of Steel. Well, there's no hint of Batman. There's no hint of anything there. And all of a sudden, the next film we get is Batman v Superman. And then we got Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And although it was awesome, I loved that film. And I loved it when they came together. I loved it when they fought and so on. But it felt as like there was a part of me that felt I would have preferred much more to get to know these characters before they met. You think about, for example, I think Batman v Superman only made like 600 million across the world, which, is a crazy thing. If you to say that these two characters on paper, Batman and Superman, were going to be in a film together, that should make $1 billion every day of the week. But it struggled. And it's interesting to think about it because Batman v Superman, if you'd think, well, if Wonder Woman, say, the first Wonder Woman movie that came out, had happened before Batman v Superman, and people knew that Wonder Woman would be in Batman v Superman, it would have been interesting to see if that made a difference. If they had made a independent Batman movie, a solo adventure of his, where maybe that thing they were thinking of doing with Deathstroke and having this whole kind of heist battle movie, whatever it was going to be, which was going to be written and directed by Ben Affleck. You have Man of Steel, Batman, and Wonder Woman all with their own singular films, then coming together into a joint thing. I think that movie definitely would have made $1 billion. I think it 100% would have done that, because now we've got, I love this version of this character. I love what they've done with this character. I love this movie. I'm excited to see them come together. Instead, they thought, well, how can we catch up? How can we build our universe as fast as Marvel's doing it? Let's chuck them all in together and let's see what happens. And I think that was a mistake. So, although Superman Legacy feels a little crowded, the thing is, if you really think about it, the characters in there are Superman, Lex Luthor, Lois Lane. The other characters that are in that film are not ones that we're very familiar with. Most people have no idea who Guy Gardner is, never mind just Green Lanterns in general. I don't think many people saw the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. So you've got an interesting situation here where I think he's obviously got a lot of characters in there, but they're not your key players. And if he was going to say, well, I've got Superman in there and Wonder Woman and Batman and The Flash, well, then I'd think, well, ugh, this seems like a problem. But if there's anything James Gunn is good at doing, it's bringing together not necessarily well-known characters, making you care about them, and creating really good ensemble team movies. And so I hope that the story focuses around Superman. Obviously it will, but I hope it's centered on him, and I hope that these other characters appear as part of the story, not. And that again, I think there's no other way it can be, because you're not shoehorning in characters to kind of highlight them. They're not ones that many people really know much about. So to see them in there, I don't think they're going to be kind of promoting them as this film is about these characters. It's going to be about Superman, and it's going to be about his journey. And that makes me excited. The fact that Batman's on this is great, because we don't even know who's cast as Batman yet. It's not going to be the same as the Robert Pattinson Batman or Ben Affleck. He's not going to be Batman anymore. I think he's definitely over Batman. So we're going to have a new guy playing Batman, and I think he deserves to be able to have his own film without necessarily overshadowing others. You want Superman fans to go to watch a Superman film without feeling like it's being diluted by another star player like Wonder Woman or The Flash or Green Lantern or Aquaman, like the main kind of Green Lantern usually. So it makes me excited, and I'm very optimistic about it. I do think this is what we need. I'm glad they're recharging it. I just want you to think about this for a moment. If we were in a position now where we weren't rebooting the DCEU to become the DCU, and we were still trying to patch together the wobbling hobnobble load of whatever it is that we've been experiencing before with the DCEU, that seems depressing to me, because I'm like, okay, Aquaman 2 was a bit of a letdown. The Flash, although I enjoyed it, again, I don't think I was ever really a fan of Ezra Miller playing the character. I just feel like it's a fresh start, and we kind of put the past behind us and move forward. I will be making a film. I'll be doing a video on the history of the DCEU and how we'll reflect on it moving forward, because I would like to talk about those films. I think there are some amazing gems in them. I do feel like there are some that were very forgettable, but I think they deserve attention and appreciation for what they were.